did you go to school?
And here's your...
What do you think of what's going on right now, mate?
These evil little invisible parasites.
Satan-worshipping Freemason moron.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
We're not run by factions.
Get the fuck out of camera!
There are much more powerful international forces in play.
Is this pink guy? Is this what pink guy is? I don't fucking know what's happening.
Please go outside and look at the moon quickly.
It's been crazy, guys, but guess what? It's how it is, mate.
Mate, because I want to do you slowly.
But I ain't spending any time on it.
Welcome to the Conditional Release program and some dare call it conspiracy, where we are going to plumb the depths of nowhere, talking about some banal conspiracy theories, serious events, trivialized by the right wing who have absolutely no idea what they're talking about on the best of fucking days. And I can't imagine two better people to talk absolute rubbish about today, just the world as it stands. I want to plumb the depths of the US election, which I feel like has kind of lost its conspiratorial bent, considering there's no queue anymore. There's no queue. But let's get Neil really pissed off today, because I think that is always really funny. And to kick off, I just want to ask Brent about the last year has been a fucking whirlwind. You have been the darling of the mainstream media insofar as the former conspiracy theory sort of story that you've brought out has just captured the imagination of journalists and disinformation experts and just Mariana Spring. I mean, like, you guys are everywhere, but what that does is it puts you in the public. Your face, your name, and your story are now public, which means you have a massive target on your head. How's that fucking going for you? I mean, like, you put me onto the ABC and I did that half-an-hour podcast with a little article, and I started getting hate mail for the first time. I've been doing this for years and I never got hate mail. And one little fucking ABC article and all of a sudden it's like, oh, you're a fucking cunt. Thanks. So how are you traveling with that? Because you've had 50 times the amount of exposure that I have. And man, like, I mean, they get really pissy about it.
Yeah, look, I'm so used to it now at the end of the day. It's been going on for so long that it's kind of just, to be honest, it rarely affects me. It's just another day. It's another day online.
Yeah,
like
just getting shit.
You know, I am just glad that I am not a person of color and I am not a woman.
Yeah,
or else the abuse would be terrible. Would
100%.
be way worse than it is. But yeah, mate, it's just another day on Twitter for me.
yeah, that checks out. I mean, like, one of the things is that, like, you know, just like the conspiracy theorists and cookers generally tend to say they're over the target when X, Y, and Z happens, you kind of know you are a little bit over the target if people are getting up you, because you're ruffling a few feathers. And in that situation, when they get defensive, you always know you hit a bit of a spot, which I think is really interesting. And I always give up on the idea of trying to save people from the conspiratorial team because, come on, it's so much work. But you actually try. I appreciate that.
At the end of the day, they've got to be the ones that want to pull themselves out.
Of course.
I'm not there to pull you out. I'm there to give you a handout if you're looking
like
to
a ladder.
Get out. Like, exactly.
Yeah.
But the other thing is, like, I used to be quite upset by the hate, I used to get quite upset from it. And
then you grew a callus over your soul and your heart died.
Basically.
But that's what happens.
I spent a lot of time trying to prove them wrong.
Yeah.
Trying to say, but I'm not one of these people. Look, it's my real face. It's my real name. Like,
I'm not from Central Casting, you idiot.
Yeah,
I work a normal job.
What a great character to use my own name.
Yeah, I know.
You can actually go and search for. Like, you can go look at my tax records, for fuck's sake. They're all right there. If I'm being paid by George Soros, the money's going to be right there, right?
I know. Can't they fucking up the fucking contributions?
So, but I spent so much time, so many years, like, really just trying to prove that I wasn't that thing, and it doesn't work. So I've I just let it go now. Just let it go. I just normally ask, well, who's paying me? Go ahead, prove it. Go on, prove it. Debunk me. Show
where's the
everyone.
money? Where's the money?
Behind bars.
So look, you know, like you look at like QAA and stuff like that where they use fake names, and of course, like, you know, Travis Field, Logan fucking Strange or whatever his name is, you know, that sort of stuff. It's very funny, but like, I was thinking of using a fake name when we came into the podcast, and I talked to my sister about it, who is a sort of, like, you know, squillion award-winning journalist who does domestic abuse, takes on the family court a bit, generally makes herself a very wide and big target because, you know, if there's one thing that men love is that women trying to stop them from beating their partners. And the family court. I mean, they bomb those things. And she was like, "Well, I use my name. Why wouldn't you use yours?" And I'm like, "Fuck you. You have got me over a barrel." I'm like, "Yeah, you take like 900 more risks than I do. You're a woman in mainstream media taking on a very sensitive topic. Yeah, I'll just use my real name." So she basically, like, for lack of a better term, called me a coward, and I totally capitulated on that. But I don't have any regrets. It's fine, fuck
So
it,
what, your
whatever.
real name is Crunchy Moses?
Well, that's the funny thing, right? So, like, I've got this shitty fucking Twitter handle that I've had since, like, 2008, which, like, I just used anyway by default. Now I'm stuck with it. And the other thing is that since I did that thing with the ABC, they say, A, I'm from Central Casting. B, this is so insulting. They keep on saying, we need to find out where this guy has been seen before. I'm like, I do a fucking podcast.
and
Like,
you hosted, what, 12 series of MasterChef?
Yeah, I know, right? Like, fucking hell. Like, they would know that because they all watch it. They love commercial TV. They just like to whinge about it. But, like, that's the funny thing. Like, I'm seeing these Telegram threads on my video saying we've got to find out where he's from, where he's been in, because he's from Central Casting. We've got to connect the dots. I'm like, okay, I'm not going to tell you guys. I'm not going to jump in here and be like, oh, by the way, he's got a podcast. You should listen to it, then get really angry about it. But, like, I'm just astonished.
And
They
subscribe
can't
to our
find
Patreon.
It. Yeah, that's it. You'll get all these bonus episodes and make you even angrier. But yeah, it's such a fucking wild thing. So also, has there been like a general sense of satisfaction from it? Has it been kind of nice to be involved in things like these conferences and these experiences of being, sort of called upon by journalists to say, you know what, I want to know your story because I think this is really interesting and really important. And surely there's got to be a brighter side to it as well. It's not all just, self-harm.
Oh, absolutely. It's the way it's not even the silver lining. It is like the actual good thing of all of this.
Yeah.
Like, the bad stuff is the minute part of this.
Yeah.
Because most of the time, like, it is those things, right, that make me not give two shits about what anyone says.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
No matter what these people say, it doesn't matter what they say. Like, I've got this other stuff happening. Like, later on in the year, like a month, I think, 5 weeks from now, me, Neil, and Greg, we're all going to Latvia. We're all going to the
cool.
EU Disinfo Lab conference for a week.
Nice.
We've been asked to go and cover the whole conference on our podcast. Like, that's legit, man.
Yeah, that is very legit.
That's all legit from me coming out one day and go, right, I need to tell people my story.
We need people to get on
like,
the fucking Patreon because, like, so we're going to continue now.
Well, thanks to our Patreons, that's how we're affording this.
Yeah,
that's how they've paid for us to go, like, to do this trip, basically.
That's really, really good because, like, when it comes to the idea of you guys being able to do this full time, we've had a crack. We haven't quite got there. We got okay. It's the patrons that we have really make a difference, and we love them very much. I know you're listening. We love you. But it's one of those things where the dream of this being a salary thing sort of died, and I had to start focusing more on career shit because, I'm nudging 40 and I'm, still in massive Peter Pan mode. And it's fucking hard. But, like, we've got to get you out of your job because, like, writing a book is not, like, I don't know how you're going to fucking do it. Like, just sort of like, Dexies and no sleep? I mean, fuck me. I don't know how you can do it. Yeah. I don't know how you do it already with the workload that you've got of just, like, hyping the podcast, writing up the episodes, producing them, between you've got full-time jobs, and that's just fucked in the head.
Yeah.
It's so hard.
If you want to do something, if you want to do something proper, you got to spend all your time on it. If you're trying to start a new business, you got to do all of it, like, as well as work another job.
Yeah.
So we're dedicated to doing this thing. Like, we just want to, we want to do it. I feel like this is our calling.
Well, I'm glad you're doing it because, like, outside of everything, it's like my, probably my favorite podcast. So that's good.
Oh, thank you.
I fucking love it, man. I live for your rants. I absolutely like the articles you do where you're just plunging through this stuff, where you do all those, like, sort of similes and metaphors. They just absolutely fucking kill me. There was one on Russell Brand. Yeah. But all of them, they've just been getting more and more brazen and vaguely defamatory, and I really, really enjoy that. So,
they do skirt a line, don't they? Like some of it. Like, I
don't think they'd want
careful.
that to be sort of talk about in court though, because that's a Streisand effect where all of a sudden everyone knows, the joke that made Russell Brand so upset about being a kiddie fiddler that he had to, sort of white ant the earth to get it off the internet. Well, now everyone knows. So maybe not the best idea. Yeah, so let's move on to something slightly more depressing, and let's talk about the wonderful bubbling undercurrent of racism in your country that has materialized into race riots, which involved the setting fire of a hotel full of asylum seekers, and apparently roadblocks where they were checking drivers to see if they were white and English.
Sort of. I mean, yes
Sort of.
and no. Like, right, okay. What happened was, they weren't even sort of. There is an argument that people are trying to make that these riots are sort of grounded in some sort of legitimate concern, and they just simply aren't.
They're not. Two-tier Kier. Fuck off.
Well, there is two-tier policing, and there's always been two-tier policing in the UK, but not in the way that the right wing are trying to portray it. That basically the poor straight white male is being persecuted. This is not a thing and has never been a thing. Like, what is true is that we still have the hangover of institutional racism and systemic racism. And so, for example, you're far more likely to get stopped and searched if you're a young black lad than you are being a white person.
That's
also,
right.
And this is nothing new. Again, like the incredible gaslighting that goes on to pretend that also in this, once you're in the system, there's people look less favorably on black people. The statistics are just out there. Like it just is a thing that basically there is an ideology, or there is these ideas there that basically are just couched in nonsense.
Well, okay, I would put a counterpoint.
People.
Here's a counterpoint to that. Do you think that in the box with a jury, do you think that a white man and a black man will still be on equal footing if that white man has an English bulldog tattoo on his neck? Because I'm not convinced that guy is doing well in the courts. And you know what? That was a choice. You put that fucking bulldog on your neck and you basically said, I am now judicial poison. I'm sorry. I've got no fucking sympathy for you. Like, it's just...
Well, yeah. That's another thing as well, because we've had this argument with lots of people. It's like, oh, you can't even use the country's flag anymore. It's like, well, you can, but the problem is that basically, like, that was appropriated very, very heavily throughout the 70s and the 80s, and then to a degree through the 90s by the BNP and National Front and various other racist right-wing movements. So in regards to what actually happened, because
I'll just say, like, just quickly, the Southern Cross in Australia had a very similar thing. People call it the
my
Aussie
mate's got that
Swazi.
tattooed on his leg.
Oh, no. You immediately think racist. And it's not fair because it's just a fucking constellation, bro. Like, come on. Like, let it go. But, of course, what happened was we had our own race riots and those fucking just Southern Crosses were everywhere. And that was how that became the Aussie Swazi, which is so unfair. But, yes, give us the down low. The Chris, we love Chris.
But it's Chris has got the Aussie Swazi. Like,
God,
anyway,
he's gonna hate hearing that. I'm sure. Has he ever heard that expression before?
No, probably not. But he will tomorrow when I see him.
He will tomorrow.
Right. So what happened was there was a horrific attack where. Well, it goes back a bit further. Basically, Tommy Robinson and various other people have been trying to sort of build up. Well, it goes back even further. When people were disenfranchised by COVID and the lockdowns and potential vaccine passports, imposed vaccines and stuff like that, people reacted very, very badly to this. Some of it was had a degree of legitimacy. Some of it was just opportunistic. And what happened with the sort of anti-COVID, anti-lockdown, where it was all being portrayed as like, look, this is totalitarianism, this is like creeping authoritarianism, this is not for your own benefit, this is basically to corral you into FEMA camps or the equivalent or whatever. What happened was a lot of right-wing and also Scientologists, bizarrely, got involved involved in the anti-protests and stuff like that. I mean, John Mappin, for a start, is heavily involved in Scientology and QAnon and all that sort of stuff. And he was financing a lot of people that were connected to the COVID conspiracy movement. Also, he was promoting certain politicians to a degree. I think he was promoting Nigel Farage and people like that. There was also a very, very sort of like right-wing group called the English Democrats that were involved in the arranging of protests.
Very tricky
things
name,
like that.
English Democrats. They sound so lovely.
Well, that's sort of the point, isn't it? Like, you know, like if they were called the English Bastards, then people would probably like pick up on it. But
that would be fair.
well, it would be, yeah. But so anyway, so off the back of that, there was the right wing basically kind of infiltrated, and it has been doing for a long time, the conspiracy movement in the UK, and this was sort of really spurred on by idiots like David Icke and David Icke's kids, desperate for an audience, interviewing people like Katie Hopkins and Tommy Robinson, and presenting it in such a "we're not scared, we'll speak to anybody," and it wasn't. It was so blatantly like, no, you're looking to get their audience. You are despicable, cynical charlatans.
Very similar thing here. It's a symbiotic relationship though, because they both get from each other.
There you go. That's what I was going to say.
Exactly. And there's a certain degree of crossover with the sort of anti-Jewish thing or the anti-Semitic canards and stuff like that.
And they're all just gullible too, which really helps. So if you throw a grenade in there, they're just going to jump on it, like, you know.
But it's mostly about fear. Like the enjoyment that comes out of being a conspiracy theory, a lot of it comes from this constant sort of adrenaline rush of, ooh, we're fighting against a new world order. And for some reason, even a person like David Icke, who used to be like, don't fall for the divide and conquer, don't fight for... Even he has been saying, oh, yeah, it's a bit of a coincidence that all these Muslim men are coming over here. Are all fighting age. Yeah. It's like, fuck off. Anywho, now, why is that happening? Well, I'll tell you for why that is happening. What happened was basically, like, when we left the EU, the Tory government saw that they could create this wedge issue. By creating a problem with immigration, they could basically go, look at this, give us the power to fight it. And also, whilst we're looking at problems potentially caused by immigration or asylum seekers, we're not looking at the billions and billions of pounds that have been basically like siphoned away from the government by the cabinet.
Oh, totally.
The corruption. And
asylum seekers are a grift too. You can put like Serco on companies like that. They charge a lot of money to deal with this shit.
Well, this is what we did. Basically, what happened was we got rid of the process by which people could claim asylum.
Yeah.
So, but that doesn't stop asylum seekers coming. That just creates a 2-year backlog.
Exactly.
And there's a lot of people that would suggest that the Conservative government did that completely on purpose because people wouldn't understand that. They'd just see the result of it. And this is it. Off the back of that, you've got the political parties like Reform, Richard Tice, Nigel Farage, people connected to Brexit who basically decided, again, to use these as wedge issues and to use populism and to stoke disenfranchisement with people. You've also got the cost of living crisis, etc. So there's a sort of whirlwind of shit that's happening that's been taken advantage of by people like Tommy Robinson, Nigel Farage and stuff like this. So with regards to these race riots, what actually happened was there was a horrific incident whereby 3 little girls were stabbed. And nobody was saying anything other than this is just an appalling, absolute, desperately atrocious act.
Awful person doing awful things. It's happened before. It happened again.
Now, the word went around that this was an immigrant that did this, and the word went around that this was a recently arrived Muslim immigrant. And so in their sort of the sensible response, obviously, is to do what people did, which was to go and set fire to mosques and attack mosques.
Yeah, that's good.
And again, like, what happened was it was discovered that the perpetrator of this terrible event was a Christian and who was born in Wales. Now, his parents were immigrants, but his parents had lived in Wales for, I think, a quarter of a century. I think they've been there, well naturalized. It's not like their thing. So it was nothing to do with immigration. It was just one of those horrible things that happened. But then basically the marches and the protests, because it was like, that's a bit overt. Young Christian lad stabs some girls, you go and attack a mosque. What? There's no connection. So they had to try and pretend that, no, this is about getting our country back. And a whole raft of things that essentially this is just racism, like desperately sort of like disguised as concern. There was no real concern. And also, this is a sort of sad thing about the English, is that the reason that the riots happened was because it was really hot. if it was pissing it down with rain, I guarantee those things
they would
not
have
have
turned
happened.
up.
No.
So I've got it here as basically saying that the Cardiff-born attacker, of course, this was unnamed due to the anonymity order of being underage, but was also because what happened was Russian and Israeli disinformation actors apparently were spreading that it was the it was Muslim, it was this, it was that, all this sort of disinformation spread by Elon Musk, Tommy Robinson, and Andrew Tate, which is
Bernie Spofford, who's a mate of Lilani Dowding's.
Yeah, this is why I wanted to jump in earlier, actually, and say it was way more than a rumor that went around. It was actual influencers, very big names, all pushing it on social media.
Yeah, it's hard not to see that as being like quite a bottle of kerosene. Yeah. Fucking Elon Musk, man. I mean, that's another episode, so let's not go there. But fuck you. Just fuck you. I just
what you got against my mate?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Fucking hell! Look, I'm happy with the fact that you're in bed with Elon in doing the Twitter thing, because you're using his platform to do exactly what he doesn't want to do. And to be honest, I reckon you're going to wake up one day and your account's going to get deleted. To be honest,
that'll happen next week.
Yeah,
we've got something in the pipeline, Joel.
Oh, good. I look forward to your device on Twitter. I'll miss you, but it'll be that thing of like,
we want to test his authenticity. Like, do you actually believe in freedom of speech, especially when every single thing being said is 100% true?
Don't write cisgender, though. Just don't fucking write cisgender, whatever you do. You'll get in trouble. So yeah. Anyway, I don't want to go too far on the tangent. Although we should probably just do a bitch fest on Elon Musk at some point, maybe next week. So the race riots. Yeah.
Well, it's again, just to sort of like we shan't touch this, but like if you want to understand what's happening with regards to American politics, UK politics, Elon Musk and stuff like that, have a look and see what Alexander Dugin was writing in his books about 5-10 years ago, and it'll all become rather illuminated, essentially.
Okay, so, it all makes sense. Yeah. There's a little bit of homework. God, like I need more homework. But yeah, so one of the things that I just think is a little bit conspiratorial and may be a rabbit hole to nowhere, but isn't it just a little bit fucking convenient that even though horrific attacks happen all the time and we tend to just accept them as a part of life and maybe talk about mental health for 3 minutes, this seems very close to Labor getting power. Like, the election,
totally.
Labor wins, and then all of a sudden, fucking...
No, absolutely. Yeah. I thought this the same thing when it happened. I was like, wow, you guys are so pissed off that you lost.
Yeah.
That you decided to fucking rile everyone up and create goddamn riots. Wow. Like, this is how angry you are.
Tantrum.
And then they have the fucking gall to basically go, Keir Starmer, worst prime minister in God knows how long. Like, look at him. Like,
every 2 weeks.
It's like, hang on. And then they're doing this thing which is really, really annoying at the minute, which is basically they're doing the Mott and Bailey argument. Look at this. 61-year-old man sent to prison for shouting at a police dog. And it's like, no. He did shout at a police dog whilst throwing a brick at it and punching a policewoman, and he was also out on license because he'd just done the 20 stretch for dealing cocaine or whatever. That's an amalgamation of various ones. But the long and short of it is that basically, like, they keep trying to put these ideas out that people have been sent to prison for, like, a tweet or an opinion or saying something. And every single case, there's more to it than that. Like, even the ones where it's just a tweet, the tweet was, lock up the mosques and set fire to it with people inside. It was inciting people to violence during a time when that type of violence was happening. So, yeah, that's the problem.
Did you actually see this, Joel, that we got the BBC to change that headline?
Oh, what?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong.
We pressured them, obviously, again with the powerful tool of Twitter.
Yeah, okay.
To change that headline, and they changed it to the exact same wording that I asked them to change it to.
Interesting.
Protester jailed for violent disorder.
Yeah, as opposed to for a tweet.
Yeah.
There was a problem in as much as basically, like, for whatever reason, right, we've got a thing now where media is looking for hits and engagement and stuff like that.
Yep.
And the second,
even the BBC,
even the fucking BBC. This
which
is the point.
So annoying.
Well, exactly, because it's like that's not what a news organization is supposed to do. And like, we're supposed to be defending you for like being the sort of like arbiters of truth or whatever. And it's very difficult when basically you do shit like that.
They keep employing people from Murdoch and shit. And it's like, guys, you don't get paid per click. You don't have advertisers. Stop being weird. Don't clickbait me, you fucking fascists.
Well, this is another point as well, because there is sort of internal sort of turmoil within the BBC, and has been ever since, like, certain people were appointed by the Tories. And it is such a vast organisation that you can't. It's saying like, people like to oversimplify it, and the thing that always got me.
So you're saying it's not a monolith?
Well, this is the point. But this was always, I always said this even when we were in the conspiracy fucking world, because basically one of the people that everybody was like, oh, amazing, was, what's his name? Adam Davis is his name, the guy that did The Power of Nightmares?
What is his name? Curtis.
Adam Curtis.
Adam Curtis.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Right. Fine. Yeah. Okay. Because everybody would quote the stuff about the Labour politician Robin Cook. Thank you. Was saying about Al Qaeda and stuff like that, and how the RICO laws were used to sort of give the impression of a larger group before that group existed and such like this. I was like, well, where'd you get that from? Oh, The Power of Nightmares. And what was that on? The BBC. Well, then it's not as straightforward as everything that you take from the BBC is. There was an example of this I saw, and I won't name the guy, because he's got enough fucking problems. But it's
Chris.
No, he's not Chris. I'd name Chris. He was a conspiracy guy, and he was put out on his Facebook that, oh, look at this. YouTube's banned one of my videos, and it's put up a thing saying that there's disinformation. Do you think that pointing them to this with this fact check will alter the perspective of my audience? And I was like, no, you've just admitted it. You're in an echo chamber. You're not interested in the truth. You're interested in your ideology. Yeah, that proves it. And this is just that's how it works, isn't it? Like that's what people use this for.
Yeah, I think that when it comes to the electoral thing, it's so dispiriting as a sort of like general sort of centre lefty. People always give me shit about when I say I'm a centrist. I think I am. I just want to nationalise everything. That's all. So that's fine. But I mean, look, it works, right? That's my university indoctrination at the political economy department of University of Sydney. I tell you what, they turned me into a real fucking Marxist. But like, it's so hard to fucking enjoy an election victory now because the right just shit themselves so hard. This experience with this race riot, not to make it all about Westminster, because it is a very serious thing. And it's not like England doesn't have a fucking bubbling undercurrent of racism going on. It has forever. These English bulldog tattoos on their necks are not new. It's just that they've been dormant for a while because they've had like Suella Braverman talking on their behalf and they felt fucking fine about it. But, when it comes to this sort of like, this nightmarish cycle of just like, we're in opposition as a left. We watch the country being privatized, people being disenfranchised, and the poor being shit on. And then finally the left get up, and all we get is fucking race riots, an increase in hate crimes, and a general sense of terror. It's like, okay, can we just not do either of those? That would be great.
The thing is, though, as well, I mean, the riots were obviously horrible, and we can obviously see the purpose of them. It's a backlash, a tantrum, and such like that.
I think so.
But the way that it's portrayed and the way that the world is portrayed on Twitter, it's like literally everybody's like, oh my God, everyone's being sent to prison. Oh my God, society's collapsing. Oh my
Censorship.
God, Keir Starmer's going to stop us from smoking in pubs and blah, blah, blah. Good. And then if you actually just walk around the world, it's actually just fine. Like the echo chamber of social media makes it seem a lot more sort of prescient than it actually is.
I get that in the US.
Sort of,
when I'm in the US, I'm just like, it's nice here. Everything's fine.
Yeah. Okay. Everyone seems to be perfectly okay.
No one's
sort of
being weird.
Going about their day.
Yeah.
Even Bill Hicks was saying that about the news back in the day.
Yes.
20, 30 years ago, he said the exact same thing. I watched the news and it's like, oh, death, destruction. Everyone's going to eat my babies. I look out the window and
there's butterflies and shit.
But beautiful day.
But this is really why it's so disappointing that the BBC are resorting to the sort of like tactics. And
it's frustrating
again,
as fuck.
The problem is again that it's the medium, isn't it? Because you've got like an outlet like a GB News that is basically just all propaganda, all sloganeering, all clickbait, all the time, pumping it out to the point where it defends itself from regulators by saying, "Oh, we're not actually a news organisation," despite the fact that it says GB News is the name. Like, we're an entertainment and opinions broadcaster, and print media is dying. We're going through a change of how people consume things, and that's where people like Elon Musk come in, because they have a vested interest. The people like them, Peter Thiel and Alexander Dugin and various other people like connected to sort of think tanks and stuff like that, have got a vested interest in changing the way that people consume media and dumbing down. This is what's so ironic, right? Okay, is that all the shit that people were saying, like David Icke and Alex Jones and stuff, were saying years ago, that people will use the media to sell you a false version of reality and to dumb you down and to corral you into certain ideas and stuff like that. It's like, that is what is happening.
Absolutely.
That is what is happening to you.
Every
You
accusation is a confession. Yeah.
Well, and also you're helping this happen. Like, you're spreading Russian propaganda, far-right propaganda, ideological propaganda, bullshit. You've worked yourself into such a frenzy where a fat, corrupt criminal rapist is your hero, and you'll do the mental gymnastics to basically go, oh no, he's this billionaire and this other billionaire with a terrible taste in leather jackets, they're the resistance against the elites. And it's like, could you just describe what the elites would be? Well, it's people with so much money that they seem to be sort of separate from oh my god, it's those two.
Oh good lord.
Like that. It's embarrassing, really, isn't it? And it's all about attention and all about jumping on bandwagons and stuff like that. This concept of the truth in the truth movement,
it's very elusive.
It went out the window ages ago. It's gone from finding the truth to being right, and there's a difference.
Yeah, right? And being exciting, right? Titillating, right? And powerful, right? As well, that power over thing.
But it's all quite sort of pointless and impotent and stuff like this as well. There's all this screaming and shouting. You're still screaming about the lockdown and still screaming about vaccines and stuff like that. And it's
dying for another lockdown. They just fucking dying for one. Yeah. Monkeypox is the next thing. And they're gagging for another lockdown. It's like, look, they might lock down some bathhouses in fucking Oxford Street. Sorry, that's a gay precinct in Sydney. But it's like, sorry guys, like, it's not going to happen unless there is a respiratory virus that is very severe. You're not getting Christmas indoors as much as you want it, because you have a captive audience of people who can say, "Oh, I fucking told you so."
Look at how fucking hard done to I am. Like, this is the thing. It's the LARP, isn't it? And like, that's when like Brent and I have taken sort of a couple of steps back from it, and you can see it from an exterior perspective. It's just like, it's just fantasy. It's just you're the equivalent of those dickheads that dress up as fucking Nazis and go to a field and like, do you know what I mean?
Like Ren fairs and things. Exactly.
Yeah. Exactly. Like, you might as well have a tabard on and be calling everybody my liege. Like, it's the same shit.
But one of the favorite things I like about this, which is coming out of your mouth, I hope I paraphrase you properly. Basically, saying like, these guys are all about to go and they're going to go off grid. They're going to get their survivalist gear. They're going to get all their stuff, and they're going to live in a basement. Except the reality is that when they stop being able to go to the fucking pub or the gym, they just melted. It's like, mate, absolutely. You're not going off grid. When you went when you went slightly off grid, you lost your mind and started crying. So no, I don't believe you are going to take your bucket of fucking MREs and move out to the wilderness and shoot deer and fucking eat it. You're not going to, mate.
It's performative, isn't it? That's
so
the thing,
performative,
which ties in with this idea of, and it ties in with this idea of it being a LARP, because it's like, that's how you fondly imagine yourself. You fondly imagine yourself to be this sort of stoic, I can cut down a tree and skin a deer and all this, and it's like, and you fell to pieces when somebody asked you to walk the different way around the supermarket. Right? Literally, like, just fell to pieces. And like you won't. I've been saying this for 4 years. You won't cope when this new world order arrives if you fall to pieces when you're asked, could you just stay inside for a couple of weeks?
Yeah, it's
Like-
quite special. Yeah, and like it's that
You know-
thing, you know. They're just desperate for something to whinge about, and if they don't have anything
Well,
to
this
whinge
is
about,
the
they'll
thing.
just go into the greatest hits, the retro stuff.
It's like collectively, like the entire conspiracy crowd, like managed somehow to make a worldwide pandemic where over
All
20
about them.
million people died, where millions of people were left with debilitating long-term illnesses.
Uh-huh.
Like where some people's businesses did collapse, right? Okay, where the
Absolutely,
government did let some people down, where
Yeah.
the response was in some places incredibly flawed, and
Yeah.
yet all of these dickheads have somehow managed to make it all about them.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah,
Right?
Yeah, it's
And
very special.
It's
Yeah.
pathetic. It's absolutely pathetic, and that's
And
they
and-
pretend that it's a collectivist thing. Like, you know, I'm looking out for everybody else. Fuck off. You're looking out for yourself because you couldn't go to the pub.
Yep.
Yeah. And to bring it back to what we were talking about at the very beginning, this is what pissed me off most about those race riots,
Okay.
is that they made the 3 deaths
Yes.
of children
Amen.
and 8 other, I think it was 8 other children and 2 women. Yeah. All of that, they made it about them.
Them. Yeah, 100%.
Instead of it being like what we should have been
Well said.
doing. They took a vigil
Yeah.
that was being held in honor and respect, and they turned that into the very first race riot.
Fuck's
that
sake.
was what pissed me off for like 2-3 weeks as they were doing this. It's like
Yeah.
you're just pissing on the memories
On their
of these
graves.
people. It's
Yeah.
just what the
Using
fuck.
You're using children's corpses as a soapbox.
Yeah.
Bullshit.
Oh,
like,
that
it's
quote.
disgraceful.
That
It's
is a
absolutely
fucking quote
disgraceful.
right there.
It's really sad.
It's horrible, but that's exactly what they do, and this is what it's exploitative, and it's what they do all the time. You've seen it, like that fucking nonsense one about they killed her and put her in kebabs and stuff like that, and it's like
Oh yeah.
they're there to evoke a feeling that nobody could deny, because, like, you know, we're talking about the death of a child, but
Yeah.
you're using the death of a child to manipulate people, and you're lying about the
so
death of children.
cynical.
It isn't it? And it's
Yeah.
just, and it goes against. It's the complete opposite of what they're presenting. This idea that they want some sort of justice, or they want some sort of, retribution, or return to normalcy. You want an equilibrium off the back of this horrible tragedy. No, you don't. You're using that as a springboard to attack people that have got nothing to do with it, because people are angry, and so you can be easily manipulated when you're angry, essentially.
Yeah.
And before you know it, you've got people so caught up in it that they're punching police and stuff like that. They think they're fighting for the return of their country and stuff like that. And it's like, this is nonsense. This is all utter nonsense. Like, none of this is real. They don't understand the root causes of it. They don't understand. I don't think they actually give a shit. I don't think they actually care. I think I'm actually probably giving people too much credit here, right? Really, what they want is they want no black or brown people, and they want they want to feel empowered in a way that has never actually been a thing. It's this mythic idea of this mythic past, the 50s, the post-war era where everything was like Enid Blyton and everybody was fabulous. And there's all these myths about crime nowadays. You know, when I was a kid, we didn't even have to lock our doors. That's because you had nothing worth stealing.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah.
Right? That was it. Like, you know, they could have gone in your house. There was nothing there. So, yeah.
And
so
there are different, like, sort of cultural things around, like, you know, sort of looking back, retrospectives and blah, blah, blahs. And I get that there are, like, certain things when it comes to, like, neighborhoods and stuff like that, where, you know, you might not know your neighbors like you used to and stuff like that. And I would say that if you were to deconstruct that and spend quite a lot of time looking at it, you'd find a lot more blame in things like, what's that big system that is on our ass? Oh, that's right, capitalism.
Yes.
Whereas, like, you know, like, look, you know, when my last area that I lived, inner city area, my neighbor was a bit of a dick. I don't think he's a listener. He used to yoga chant twice a day. I still have PTSD where, like, I'll sort of wake up and be like, no yoga chanting. Oh my God, my life is great. But moving out was really beautiful. But like, I tried to get to know my neighbors, and I did know my neighbors to a certain extent, and that was really cool. But people were moving in and out all the time because housing is too expensive, and they'll get fucking jacked out by a fucking landlord. So I'll get to know a neighbor, and then by the time we've become mates, the fucking lease is over, and the rent's gone up 30%. They can't afford it, and they've left. So yeah, you get a new person in. That new person might be a piece of shit. But when it comes to the idea of sort of race and criminality, all I want to see a throwback to the 50s, not because of the doors being unlocked. I miss being robbed by white people exclusively. I just think that because, that it really felt better. And, you'd think there and be like, I'm really glad that that's going to a nuclear family of hetero, cis, fucking, nicely dressed people. You buy yourself a nice Sunday roast with that. Oh, you stabbed me. Oh, no white English person's ever stabbed another white English person in history. That Braveheart movie was definitely fictitious. Like, it's just fucking silly. Those Asbos and shit like that with all those fucking kids. Okay, yeah, probably a few brown ones in there. But I tell you what, I reckon it was probably, if you take a fucking graph of race and you place it over it, you'd find it pretty much parallels. What you would find also is these are people who come from families that work really, really hard, find it very difficult to keep tabs on their kids and to influence them, and generally speaking are just being put through the ringer by capitalism and unable to form the bonds that we used to be able to form when we had a single fucking income house that would be able to sustain itself. And now we have two parents working full-time, struggling to get by, and kids running around thinking, well, no one really gives a shit. And that's class. And that's England, I'm sorry, and Australia.
Yeah, this is the point, isn't it? Like, you get... They're trying to portray these ridiculous stereotypes that crime is overly connected to race, and it's not.
It's bullshit.
Like, there is an argument that crime is connected to poverty. And then there's another conversation that talks about how systemic racism and
it's different crime, of course, but yeah, it's the crime that we all get scared about
and stuff. Yeah. But
rich people commit rich person crimes.
Fucking look at what Elon Musk is doing and Pavel Durov and stuff like that. Okay,
totally.
Look at fucking Donald Trump. Like, he's a 37-time felon, and
he doesn't pay his contractors. This is the thing that I like to bring up with MAGA people. He doesn't pay for the people who build these fucking houses. So he fails in Atlantic City. Not only does he fail building casinos, which is technically impossible, but all the plumbers, all the builders, all the brickies have to sue him to get paid.
Yeah.
How can you respect someone who does that?
People who don't pay me are scum. I had a theory about that as to why, that... because there was obviously sort of problems with security where the assassination attempt. I had a theory about that because the reason that he was in that outside venue was exactly what you're saying.
Because he doesn't pay his fucking bills.
Doesn't pay his venues, so no venue was going to let him think. You know who else he doesn't pay? Secret Service and local police. And so if you're in a situation where basically like you don't know whether you're going to get paid, you might not cross the T's and dot the I's and stuff like that. There might be a breakdown in communication or certain slapdash just do enough sort of stuff. And apparently what happened with regards to that lad on the roof was there was a debate or an argument about who was responsible for what perimeter.
Yeah, and they didn't know whether he was a cop or not.
Yeah, exactly.
Because there was shit communication.
Exactly, but why is there shit communication? Because everyone's half-arsing it because they know they're not going to get fucking paid. That makes, to me, that makes far more sense than it was Hillary Clinton mind controlling the kid to do it, or even that it was Donald Trump. It was like performance art that Donald Trump.
It's staged.
Yeah, there was that. I mean,
that's silly.
No, of course it's silly because, but interestingly, the second one that it happened and he did that fight. I looked at her and went, "Oh shit, he's gonna win." And then it was like, "That's a really strange."
I thought that too.
But it's really strange, isn't it? That the way that people would gravitate to him because he survived an assassination attempt.
I know, it's such a fucking perverse nature that we have.
Yeah,
it's
bizarre,
so weird.
Isn't it?
Yeah,
but at the time, it certainly seemed to be like, oh god, he's unstoppable now, isn't he?
Well, my thought wasn't necessarily that people are going to gravitate toward him as such, which they would, of course, especially in the fact that he handled it so well, in the fact that he sort of clearly disassociated for a moment and then went, "No, I've got to make the most of this because he's a fucking showman." But
he's a showman. You can't knock that.
You can't. No, that's one thing you can say. But like, I thought what was going to happen was going to backfire on the left insofar as it was going to be found that this was a guy who, like, wanted to lick Joe Biden's feet. He studied communism at the community college or some shit.
Yeah.
And, he was, 13 different genders or whatever fucking right-wing fucking trope you want to throw at it. And that was going to be that thing of, like, the average Antifa sort of thing. You'd find he's like an anti-fascist message boards, and they'd fucking whinge about that. And then when it turned out that basically he was yet another chud who had looked up Merrick Garland, Joe Biden, and Trump, and out of what seemed like almost opportunism and laziness, chose Trump. And materially basically supported him. I think that he would have voted Libertarian if I had to bet. But at the same time, like, it just became that thing of, like, we can't use this as a wedge anymore because the amount of draw it has for Trump being this, like, sort of survivor of an assassination attempt and, like, in this sort of, saved by God type.
By who?
Thing.
Yeah.
Like, when it came down to it, it's like, what we really need is we need this person to be our enemy. And he doesn't have pink hair. He doesn't have a gender diverse identity. He doesn't support, Harris or Biden or, any of the sort of Democrats in general. We've got nothing. And now we've stopped talking about it.
Yeah, isn't it bizarre, isn't it? Like, there was an assassination attempt that was this close to being successful against the former president of the United States a month on. No one gives a shit.
No one cares because it's not electorally opportunistic.
Useful
like,
for
it's
them.
Not useful.
Yeah. In fact,
that's
in many
how cynical
ways,
we are.
Well, yeah, but I mean, that's this thing. You could even, I don't know this to be the case, but you could even make the thing that they've stifled it because of that uncomfortable question.
I think so.
Like,
I think so.
Like, yeah.
And, like, of course, that thing of, like, oh, look, we love guns. And then all of a sudden this kid gets a gun and climbs on a roof, and you're like, oh, maybe there is something wrong with having AR-15s available to every fucking idiot in the country. And I love guns. I love shooting. I don't have a gun license, but I really want one. I don't have this fucking time or the money. But because bullets are really expensive. But, like, when I go to the States, I shoot as much as I possibly can with friends or just at ranges. I'll go out to Western Sydney and I'll shoot as much as I possibly can. I would love to hunt at some point. I'm way too much of a pussy, but I'm sure I could change that. All of that and above, I don't think that anyone needs a fuck AR-15. They're amazing.
Do you know that lad?
But...
What was that lad? James Holmes or whatever? The Aurora, was it the cinema shooting?
Yep.
You know the silliness of that. They'd have checked his ID to go in because of the film, but he'd been able to buy those guns without ID.
Isn't that fucking cooked?
Ridiculous.
It's just silly and it's just bad. And, like, going into gun shops and stuff in the US and just being like, you can buy that. And I get the argument because when I went to some of these gun shops, I saw these guns that just, like, looked like the kind of thing that you'd see in a movie, but didn't work like you see in a movie. So when you hold down the trigger, it goes dugga dugga dugga, where this one you've got to go boom 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 with the finger.
But you can get a switch on it and stuff, like, can't you? Like,
why make them scary? You can put things like, there's the bump stock thing, which is pretty shit because you can't aim, and there's, like, all sorts of little trigger hacks and stuff, which some states will allow, blah blah blah. But at the end of the day, the argument that gun looks scary, but it actually isn't scary because of XYZ is moot, because what you're doing is you're playing into the fantasy of very unstable people who see themselves as Rambo.
Scary. Yes,
and now they have a scary gun they can shoot kids with. Don't give them a scary gun if they do the same thing. Just give them a boring-looking gun. Ruin the romance of shooting up a fucking hall.
But again, it boils back down to capitalism. They look scary in the same way that certain cars look sleek or fast, and they're not.
Yeah, like dumb things like the Cybertruck.
Yeah. Oh, fucking hell, yeah. Like, yeah.
Some look to shit.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I just think, all those guns are completely fucking unnecessary. And, like, if you've shot an AR-15, you can know very comfortably that you could clean out a fucking room.
Well, totally. And the thing that gets me is that, if you like guns, just say you like guns. This nonsense lie that the reason that we need guns is because one day the government might become tyrannical.
Oh my God.
And then we'll need those guns to overthrow them. And it's like, you reckon that'll work? I had a fuck ton of guns. Every single army in the world that the American army's gone up against. And it didn't really do them much good.
No.
And they were trained.
Yeah, vaguely,
Bubba and his mates with their
Meal
toilet
Team
bowl shop.
6.
Yeah. Do you
Yeah.
think how are you going to cope against drones and like this fantasy that we need this to overthrow the government in
The
case
Second
they
Amendment, man.
step over their line? Like
Yeah.
nonsense.
And who's the arbiter of that line anyway? So far, what we've seen with people who are very invested in the Second Amendment and seem to be the arbiters of what the line is are fucking morons. You know, even back in my university days, and like all the little socialist kids who talk about revolution and whatnot, who I loved, they were my mates. And I'd be just like, look, I love you guys, and you guys are really clever. And these were really smart people. It was a very high-end university. I got in there because I was old. But these kids were like, get like 99 in their fucking school and shit. And like, they're wanking on about this revolution. I'm just like, guys, I have to say,
it's not gonna happen.
I don't think it's going to happen. But even if it did, I think you guys might fuck it up. So... Yeah, I get it, and I get things are bad now, and I think you could improve them by overthrowing the place and making it all in the shadow of Marx and that. But to be honest, I think you'd fuck it up like heaps in lots of ways, and I think that's just something you should be aware of as you're plotting. They're all just drinking, having fun, but still, they are not the fucking wisest people in the planet. They're just the ones who are there talking about it the loudest.
But if you want a gun because basically they're fun, or you want a gun for hunting,
so much
or
fun.
You want a gun for I used to be part of a gun club before Dunblane happened in the UK.
Yeah,
in fact, shit up because there's this old place near just around the corner from where I live, and it was an old RAF sort of structure. In war films where they have that table where they push in the sort of like things where there's a map on it, and then there's Then there's a walkway around the top where the generals will look over it. Well, we shot over the top of the walkway, and the map table was just below us, so you could see the old abandoned. Yeah, it was fucking cool.
Yeah, that's cool.
Then Dunblane happened, and there was a ban on most guns in the UK. Now, but so here's the point: if you want guns for protection, for hunting, just for fun, just because you think they're cool, that's fine. Right?
Just say
two
it.
things.
Yeah.
Hey, just say it. Don't pretend that it's because basically, I've got to have this in case, like it all goes, in case
tyranny
the balloon goes up. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And
dumb.
If you're going to have something that could kill somebody, in the same way that you have to be tested and licensed to drive a car, which could also kill somebody, it would seem sensible to me that you should have to have some sort of restrictions on buying guns. Like, I don't think it's a good idea to give people who are psychotically mentally ill and have a propensity for violence access to guns. I don't think it's a good idea to give children access to guns. And if you agree with those two things, then you agree with gun regulations and gun laws. So it's a simple, and they always lie as well and say, they want to just get rid of guns. No, I don't think anybody really wants to get rid of guns. I don't think anybody thinks that that's even viable in a place like America. But I think what they do want is a degree of oversight to, potentially reduce the number of children that get murdered every year.
You can say the same thing as well with the zombie knives. Like, why do you need a knife that big? You're doing it because you think it's cool. Because you think you're big and tough because you got a much bigger fucking knife or a bigger gun than someone else. But you don't actually need these things. And it is all about upholding some image of being a tough guy.
Yeah. I mean, but again, and you get into, for excuse the pun, but an arms race. I mean, look at Chicago. So we were talking about earlier about switches and stuff like that. You've got Glock 30s with fucking automatic switches and 40 bullet magazines and stuff like that that can just cause such incredible damage in the hands of amateurs, as well. Do you know what I mean? And
totally.
Yeah, but. The point is, if so and so's got a larger knife, like a Rambo knife or whatever, then it's a good idea for you to have that. But again, all of these things are born out of this is the thing that people don't talk about as well. They lie about the reasons. Yes, there's a lot of stabbings that are going on in the UK.
Horrible.
Yes, a lot of them are in London. Yes, a lot of them are young black lads stabbing each other and stuff like that. But people don't understand or don't care really why they're stabbing each other. I mean, it's not an excuse, but it's drugs. It's drugs and postcode wars, and the postcode wars are for sales of drugs. So and why are these kids selling drugs? because they come from deprived areas where they don't see any potential opportunity, exactly. Other than selling drugs and stuff like that, and then you get involved in county lines shit and stuff like that, and it's very, very easy to get sort of swept up in these things. Like you could even there's even sort of things where basically like people don't really have a choice. You grow up on this particular estate, all your friends are involved in certain things, all the older brothers, all the elders on the estate are involved in certain things. You will be ridiculed and ostracized if you don't. You might even put yourself in danger because you're from that estate. So people from other estates know that you're a target, right? Just purely from where you live. And so you tend to gravitate to. So it's complicated. And it's, although, again, people like in the far right would like to sort of present it as like a sort of a racial thing. It's not. It's a systemic thing. It's a system-based problem.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and you've got these influencers over here that are doing the whole whataboutery with it and sharing news stories of these sorts of stabbings and saying, "Oh, where's the government cry out for this? Where's are these people going to prison?" And I'm thinking, sorry, do you guys not understand that the government doesn't give two shits about black kids killing each other?
Oh, that's also true.
That's actually the fucking deal here. They don't actually give two fucks at all.
And also, like, there's a lot of social workers and things like that who are on the street, who are being funded by government, who are working to try and help these situations. But at the end of the day, if the government did give a fuck, there'd be more funding, it'd be different, and also there'd be systematic changes. They would have mixed income neighborhoods. They would change so many things. But of course, they don't genuinely give a fuck. They give a fuck more about buying submarines and missiles than they give a fuck about kids stabbing each other in council estates.
Do you know that the British government has got like 6 decommissioned nuclear submarines? That two of them are down south. Two of them are up in Scotland. 4 of them are down south. And they're supposed to be decommissioned about 20 years ago, and we've got absolutely no idea what to do with them. So they just sat there. They just sat there, just rotting away, basically.
That's our future. We've got a big US submarine deal. And one thing that would be great if Trump got in is that he's planning to potentially cancel a submarine deal because they need the submarines more than us, apparently. And you know what? You can fucking keep them. If Indonesia or China actually want to take over the country, we don't have enough bullets to kill their army. So we are relying on basically a sense of mutually assured destruction, general benevolence, and also the wonderful nature of when everyone trades together, they stay peaceful together. And hopefully that sort of checks out. But when it comes to this submarine deal, it's fucking mental. But it's incredibly silly. When it comes down to those sort of like, urban crime things and stuff like that, it is a real shame that these people are just sort of forgotten like that. But council estates in the UK are their own beast.
Oh, absolutely. But but let's not pretend that this is exclusively a London thing or exclusively a black thing. It just isn't.
No, of course not. Of course not.
And also the ridiculousness of it is like, look at this, they're rabid, just lawless. It's like they all go to prison.
They do end up in prison. That's why they're so fucking crowded at the moment.
Yeah. You can't. This is the point. It's like letting all these people out, but they don't send them to prison. Well, who is it they're letting out and stuff like that?
What happens with them being in prison anyway? Like, so look, I can relate to this in like a sort of flip side way because my upbringing was quite privileged insofar as it's not like we had like a stupid amount of cash as such, but we just came from an area that was quite middle class, obviously middle class. It was by the beach, very. A very diverse amount of professions and people. A lot of my friends went to university. I was a cooked idiot who thought that university was a scam and higher education was indoctrination. So that was cooked, but that was a fun little phase. I got out of that and then went to uni. But one of the things that I've got from my upbringing in that middle class thing is that most of the jobs, most of the opportunities, most of the experience that I had have gone through those people. I've got networks. My father was always self-employed, so I became self-employed. I followed in those sort of footsteps. Same with my mother, self-employed, I became self-employed. You do that. You tend to follow in your footsteps. But also the people around you offer you the opportunities that you might connect through. Now, if I was surrounded by people who are making money from drugs, or I could get a job down at the supermarket and get paid $20 an hour, well, I'd be choosing the drugs. It's much better. But I didn't have to do that.
Yes, which what's normalised to your circumstance as well. Like, do you know what I mean?
but like I was just surrounded by opportunity though. I had opportunity coming out of every fucking cavern, and I chose self-employment, and I went through a very privileged training process, which was great because I got to do things without pressure because my parents didn't make me pay rent every week because they weren't struggling to make ends meet at the time.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, people don't tend to like think about individual struggles, but there's also, have you heard of the concept of the broken window theory?
Go on.
Like, this is the idea that basically, if you go to any place and you break a window, that it subconsciously tells people that, okay, this area is a bit run down, and so
we can break another window.
Their attitude. Yeah, precisely. Yeah. So
like if a dirty room, you can make a dirty room dirtier because the floodgates are open.
Yeah, precisely. So if you live in an area where basically, there's not a lot of facilities, there's a lot of poverty, and this poverty breeds certain types of criminality, which breeds certain types of environmental cues or whatever, then, that's sort of what you expect. You sort of mold yourself to your surroundings, essentially. So again, all of these problems, they're born out of bigger systemic problems, deprivation, lack of education, lack of opportunity, which leads to people, engaging in criminality or antisocial behaviour, as a sort of more. I mean, in many ways, it's a sort of like an outlet for frustration sometimes as well.
Totally, yeah. I had my outlet for frustration back in the day used to be the conspiracy universe. And that was one of the things about the sort of like the lack of education thing is that, like, it's quite funny because since doing the ABC thing, I've had people blah, blah, blah saying that. But at the end of the day, I basically went on to a thing and had a chat with a journalist to say, I used to be a bit of an idiot, which is an interesting thing to do, to be basically like, I was a bit of a dumbass. It's like,
welcome to my world.
I know, like, is that like the best fucking flex? But like, at the end of the day, what really was going on there is I wasn't necessarily stupid, and I never have been sort of stupid as such, but I did genuinely kick back on the idea of education. When I went to university and I started learning, sort of critical thinking, as they like to call it, a lot of pennies did drop, but a lot of ways that my, sort of intelligence was done methodologically changed. And that was really important.
Well, this idea of being suspicious of education, like higher education, it's not born out of stupidity. There was two things, right? One, all of a sudden, that opportunity for people to get a higher level degree became more prevalent. So the specialness of it, the exclusivity of it, was taken away. Ironically, that sort of fed into rather than sort of like bringing society up. What it meant was that basically your minimum requirement for getting a job is now a lot more sort of
BA to work at a supermarket.
Exactly. But then the flip side of that as well was that basically they started introducing ludicrous degrees like horse studies or cheese appreciation, or I remember when there was a degree on heavy metal, there was a degree on the cultural impact of David Beckham, there was a degree on all sorts of shit.
I'm fine with that shit though. Like, I like the wacky, wonderful academic world because it teaches you things on the side as you go.
Well, this is what I was just going to say. Just like, there is to a degree, a usefulness for that as well, because it shows you how to do things that you wouldn't have done in other places. Like look at sourcing, look at how to construct an argument through an essay, understanding that just because something's written in a book or is presented in a documentary or on a film doesn't necessarily mean that it's correct. Like, do you know what I mean? There's the world is far more complicated, that history is far more complicated, that everything is far more complicated. So there is that, but at the same time it kind of diluted it a little bit, didn't it? But at the same time, so I can see why people, and I was always one of those sort of things. Like, it wasn't with academia, but it was with music. It's like I resisted learning music theory but insisted on being a self-taught guitarist because I don't want to be sullied by systems and the way that you should work. And that was
just write music like everyone else.
Yeah. But that was twatty. And the second somebody actually showed me the scale, it was like, oh, good God, that could actually make this work now. Should have done this 20. Should have done this years ago, you idiot. Like,
okay, so I'm going to take a bit of a detour backwards, and then we might move to some US stuff soon because I think we're limited with time. But I just want to ask Brent about his upbringing, going from sort of like, military-based things like that. And this is totally not conspiratorial and totally personal. You don't have to answer it, but like, how did you feel your opportunities went? Did you think, oh, should I join the military? Because you fucking hated war, you hated the military. Like, what did you see your option set as? Did you follow in the footsteps of something insofar as like what did you see your future as in that regard? Because I would imagine if you grew up a military brat, you'd decide to join the military. You hated war.
Yeah. Well, there was like maybe a small short period where I thought maybe I should join the Air Force.
Mm-hmm. Of course there was. It's hard to resist that,
And I was like, no, of course I'm not fucking joining the Air Force. At the end of the day, like the thing that drove me through school all my life really was like my real father was a musician.
Yeah, okay.
And my stepfather was in the military.
Yeah,
and I wanted to be like my dad.
There was two worlds
like
there.
real father.
Okay. Yeah,
so that was the dream that I always kind of chased.
Yeah.
And when I was in school, in military school and everything, I'd be like, I don't really care what you guys got to say because I can play the guitar and sing. And I can start and I'm rapping now. And that's what I'm going to do when I leave school.
Yeah.
And so like eventually when I was actually kicked out of school, I just went and got a job and like joined a band and just carried on. I was not interested in really joining the military until like I got in trouble. I got caught shoplifting. I was like 12 or 13 and they arrested me, put me in handcuffs, led me out through
quite dramatic.
School. Yeah, led me out through the shopping center and everything. So like it was like one of the most embarrassing things like ever going through as a kid. And then like thinking, shit, my parents are going to they're going to go mad over this.
Yeah.
And then basically after that, I got put into a thing at high school called JROTC, which is like Junior Reserve Corps kind of thing. And for that moment when I was like, I was in trouble and I had to go in this thing, I was like, is this what I need to do? Do I need to go join the Air Force?
Oh no!
And I was eventually very, very, very quickly. Well, I was like, no, these people are pricks.
Yeah, they're fucking bad.
Joining this thing.
There's nothing good about this. This is
I hate authority. I hate you guys. Like
this is not the fucking path. This is not it.
Yeah, so I just didn't. Like, I just wanted to make music, and that is what I concentrated on for.
I guess that is how it sort of played out. Yeah. Okay. Cool. That's really interesting. Yeah. Because I would imagine that's it's a real sort of like beeline toward institutionalization, but you had that thing on the side that kept you out of that that path.
But my stepsister joined the military. She joined the Air Force for a while.
Yeah, it checks out. Yeah.
I think my other two stepsisters actually married people who were in the military.
Yeah.
Loads of friends that I went to school with that were also all rebellious like me, all ended up joining the Air Force or the Army.
We are so fucking monkey see, monkey do. We don't like to say it, but we fucking are. Like, it just is what it is. Just cough it sweet. Yeah. So if we could pivot to the US elections, I don't know how closely you guys are following the US elections. I am, because I must say I'm an absolute US elections junkie. It's the Super Bowl. It's the wrestling. It's WrestleMania. It's silly. There's fireworks. There's lots of balloons and shit. It's always the silly spectacle. And also the thing that I really love about it is that it always lands on my birthday week. Nice. Just to not self-dox entirely, I won't give away my birthday, but every now and then it falls on the first Tuesday of November, which is Melbourne Cup Day. There's a horse race. Horse racing kind of sucks, but that's another story. But a lot of people have the day off. I think it's a public holiday in Victoria. And basically it's a big horse race. It's about 3 p.m. and I go out and get really, really drunk that day. And sometimes it's my birthday, which is great. But also they do elections around that time too. So the next day is like, oh man, I got to scrape myself off the floor and go and start drinking at like midday. And I fucking love it. It's great. It's just like birthday week. Every 4 years, it's election week. Then again, every 2 years, it's like midterms week. There's Melbourne Cup. It's just like a fucking great week. And also, like, daylight savings is in. The weather's starting to kick ass. Oh, man, what a time fucking year. Love it. But one of the things that I've been noticing with this election that's coming up now, which I have lots of money on, and I really want the Democrats to win because I would like to win that money, is basically like the conspiracy universe seems to be up in the fucking air. Not only is it like the curveball of Harris, which like no one seemed to be expecting, which, I mean, to be fair, I also didn't put money on Harris to take over. So I put money on Biden and Newsom, so I can't fucking talk. But like at the same time, like this is crazy. Like there's no QAnon. There's no Q at least. I mean, like there's still like sort of, anons or whatever, but there's no Q.
There's a little bit of birtherism. They're trying to claim that Kamala Harris isn't eligible.
Isn't eligible based on some dumb law.
Well, they're saying because her parents weren't born in America. It's like that's not what it says.
Well, maybe grandparents, maybe great grandparents. Let's just go fucking back. Sorry, if you're not like Native American, you can't be president. Let's do this.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah,
but like it's so silly.
And she's also a man, apparently, which is really dumb. She's blown her way to the top, apparently. Like
it's all the usual misogyny. Yeah,
it's that dumb. That gets on my fucking nerves, right? Okay, that whole sort of like every woman in Hollywood is transsexual or they're secretly a man or something. It's like what that really is some fucking virgin basically going, I wouldn't shag her anyway. I wouldn't shag that Scarlett Johansson. You cut your fucking fingers off, right, to drink a pint of her sick, you wanker.
Yeah,
honestly.
Very nicely put. Another quote. I must say, I did feel that a little bit too. I'm like, yeah, wow. Like there was the Banshees of Inisherin movie. I don't know if I said that properly. Where yeah, it gets real dark and like sort of cuts his fucking fingers off and shit. And I like because I've seen that like reasonably recently. I'm like, I had that image in my head, so I'm like, yeah. And then I was thinking of A Cup of Sick. I remember that like that really creepy like video where the guy like pukes into a cup and drinks it, and I'm like, oh man,
that's from The Word. That was a 90s TV show, and it was a section called The Hopefuls, where the tagline was "I'd do anything to be on television," and there was all sorts. Wow. There was a big fat guy that was on a treadmill for half an hour, and then they wiped his sweat on a sponge, and this bloke had to squeeze it out and drink a shot of this guy's sweat.
God.
There was honestly like they got progressively worse and worse and worse. This was a television show where famously the guitar player from L7 took her tampon out and threw it into the audience. Oh no, she didn't. That was at a festival. She just took her trousers down and exposed herself on this program.
Well, that's kind of
famously, Kurt Cobain. Nirvana were on there just after Nevermind came out, and they were supposed to start the song, and instead he said, I'd just like to announce that the lead singer Courtney Love from the sensational pop band Hole is the best fuck on the planet. Which is nice.
Isn't this like the good old days they're trying to get back to? I mean, like, look, if your idea of the good old days is going back to the way in which metal and grunge were in the top 10 charts and played frequently on mainstream media, like Faith No More, were normal. Yeah, let's make Faith No More normal again. I'm cool with it. Let's do that.
Yeah.
I
want to bring it back to the point where literally just an acoustic guitar was enough to get 30 people crowd surfing. Like, that's what there's a guitar. Come on.
Mosh pits need so much work. We need to have like in school, like a mandatory course of like how to mosh. Now jump up and down to the rhythm and don't be a cunt. Now repeat after me.
Well, this is the thing. It was always the way word. Like the most dangerous mosh pit I was ever in was actually a band called James, and the reason that it was dangerous because nobody knew what they were bloody doing, and so everyone was
that's the problem. Is swinging their fists around and shit.
I recently went to a festival and there's a hardcore band called Malevolence, and in their 45-minute set they had 902 crowd surfers.
Wow, that is fucked up.
Yeah.
I like the fact that someone actually bothered to count.
Yeah.
We shouldn't get too distracted
festival record
on metal, like
well, that was
Brent.
Neil. Like you obviously know his research. He sat there actually.
Yeah, I bet. That is a very Rain Man giveaway there. It's, So like with the US vibe, I mean, like, we don't have to dwell on it too much, but like when it comes to just the way in which it's being manifested into the sort of the right-wing conspiratorial circles, it just seems like it's going nowhere. There's none of this like Donald Trump is, saving the children. Donald Trump is a superhero. He's wearing a cape and he's fucking amazing. They just sort of like, it's almost like they've sort of gone to bed, which is weird.
Well, I think it's because they've they were aiming it at Biden, and they were doing the whole sort of Biden's dead, Biden's a puppet,
Oh,
blah,
body
blah,
double
blah,
blah blah.
Yeah, all of that silliness, and like that he's actually ran by Obama and stuff like that. And they're trying it with Kamala in as much as they're basically like they're misrepresenting certain taxes that she wants to put out, and they're obviously calling her a Marxist and a communist and all of this nonsense. But yeah, I think they've been somewhat caught on the back foot.
But even then, like the Democrats are pedophiles, adrenochrome, like any of that sort of stuff. Like, you know, I would expect what would happen is Harris gets in, and straight away it's like, here's a picture of her eating a baby. She's quite good looking for her age, right? Adrenochrome. I mean, like, where is all this shit? It's just not there. Like Hillary Clinton, the Clinton body count.
It's still there. It's still there. It's just not very as mainstream because the mainstream arguments really are more about, oh, look, she's a communist prostitute.
Yeah,
basically, she slept her way
because
to the top.
They just had to pivot. They had all this stuff built up for Joe, and now they've like, oh shit, we got to change new things. What do we do? Communist blew her away to where she was. Okay, we'll stick with that for now, and then the rest of the conspiracies are going to build, and they'll
don't mention
add
Epstein.
more stuff to it.
Well, the problem was, it didn't come out that Trump had bought Epstein's private jet.
Yeah, and that's a bit of a blow up, though. It was more of a bargain than anything else. But still,
no, absolutely. But it's like, you know, quite. This
come on, that's all you really would need, though, in the conspiracy world. All you need is that, but they just don't. They won't even look at it.
No, they won't understand it. No, which is just like, you know, the typical double
standard. This is where they're actually logical. They're like, oh, no, it's got nothing to do with it. But come on, like any conspiracist, any self-respecting conspiracist would be like, yeah, he's completely in on this now.
Exactly.
He's bought the Epstein jet.
Yeah.
Do you know who seems to be pushing the most of the conspiracy thing? It's not even Alex Jones. Alex Jones is doing the whole sort of like, you know, they're going to steal it. It's too big to rig. Trump is blah, blah, blah. But he doesn't, like, he's more focusing on the assassination attempts. Oh, no, I'll tell you what he is trying to do. He's telling everybody that Tim Waltz, is that his name, is a paedophile. But the problem is that basically, like, I don't know, like, the problem is that basically, like, he comes across as sort of like everything that they kind of want to embody. That guy that you know, the old phrase, which one would you want to go for a beer with?
Yeah.
And they've got JD Vance, who's just the oddest person on the planet.
He's unpleasant. Yeah.
Isn't he?
No.
Well, the thing is, like, he was a never Trumper, and he said some dreadful things about Trump. He's also got absolutely no personality. He's also completely connected to Project 2025, and he said some appalling things about like women and stuff like that. So it's like, Jesus, Webbs. It's like, and then they're really trying. It's like RFK. That's as sort of far as they're going with it. I wonder if the conspiratorial stuff is off-putting, and they realise that shit, we've got a mainstream fight going on here. So
I'll tell you, they're trying to get in the middle because they've already got their cult. But like, you know, when it comes to stuff like, you know, RFK, like, how could you possibly make any weirder? And when it comes to people like JD Vance, well, you know, I don't want to be conspiratorial, but like, puppet of Peter Thiel. So
completely, and that's not even conspiratorial.
I think bringing bringing RFK into the fold now is their part of continuing with the conspiracy stuff.
I agree.
Trump and Vance are the ones doing the misogyny and the anti-communist and acting like anyone on the center is some far leftist.
Mm-hmm.
But now that RFK is back in the fold with their party, he's the one who's been embracing the conspiracy theories. Like recently, literally this week, him posting that thing to Concerned Citizen that will stop this crime of chemtrails.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, hold on. They've put him in charge of being the guy who's courting the conspiracists.
He's the cat herder.
And I so hope this is going to bite them in the ass.
I really think it will.
I so hope this chemtrail one should really actually come back on them and bite them completely in the ass. You think this guy, like, who thinks
and what jobs
this non-existent thing is real and it should be criminally charged? What?
That's insane.
The other thing that they've tried is stupid as well, because they've basically tried to say that the soldiers who died during the Afghanistan withdrawal, they're trying definitely to blame that on Kamala Harris and Biden.
Yeah,
and
that's Trump anyway.
Well, this is the point. About 5 seconds of looking into it goes that the reason that they were left in such a silly and dangerous position in the first place wasn't due to Biden administration. It was due to decisions that were made by
reckless and quick withdrawal.
Yeah, by the Trump administration prior to that. So that doesn't even work.
No,
like,
it doesn't.
They're struggling to find like an angle. Basically,
there's really no angle. I can't see it.
They're improving a bit, trying to sort of get a hook that works. None of his nicknames work anymore because
Kamabla, it's like what?
I think there's a lot of things. I think Trump is not quite as sharp as he was. I think that JD Vance is an appalling pick, on a number of levels, on a personality level.
Nikki Haley would have changed it.
Yeah, I suspect. Even as someone like a Tulsi Gabbard, even though she's shit, obviously.
Nuts.
Mental, like absolutely mad. That's the thing that gets me is like, they're presenting like the dream team: Tulsi Gabbard, RFK, Donald Trump, JD Vance, Elon Musk. It's like these are all cretins.
Yeah.
Like this, I wouldn't trust them to be a fucking pub quiz team. Let alone run a country. Like
I wouldn't trust them to feed my cat if I was on holiday.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, your cat would be dead.
Yeah. Have you seen all the TikToks that are going on for taking the piss out of JD Vance?
No.
There's one JD Vance in a park.
I thought you hated TikTok.
Somebody put them on Twitter. I've never been on TikTok.
And everyone who is on TikTok as well. I'd listen to the podcast. Anyway, I just wanted to call you out because I've recently listened to your stuff. Yep, go on.
Well, they're just brilliant. There's several. There's one guy that just keeps it. The funniest one is Kamala Harris wants you to stop doing guy stuff. And this bloke, he just looks amazing. There was another guy who's done a makeup tutorial to show exactly how to get JD Vance's
JD look. Yeah, nice.
Yeah. And then there's this other one called JD Vance Rerouting, which is him meeting people in the park. And they skewer him so just perfectly.
Excellent.
And it's,
he does look good with eyeliner, man. Like, it just is what it is. Embrace it. Like, I think if JD Vance was gender diverse, that'd be the fucking funniest Republican ticket ever.
It reminds me of Wicket, that Ewok.
I can't relate. I think I've seen Star Wars films like once, maybe.
They have these sort of big glassy eyes, and like he's just got that sort of. He just reminds me of an Ewok.
It wouldn't surprise me if that's where he got it from. To be honest.
Yeah. Well, there's that old photo of him as well, like with a communist T-shirt on backstage at like WWE or something like that.
Oh God, of course.
And it's just like, oh, for fuck's sake! Like because the problem is, if you live in this ludicrous space where you've got to present this concept in order to demonize people, anything like that, it just doesn't work because it causes that cognitive dissonance where it's like, Jesus, hang on, this is nonsense, isn't it? It doesn't make any sense. But
what
are you gonna do?
Well, I think like one thing that we can sort of finish off here, which is very banal and very stupid, but something I wanted to bring up with you guys is the thing we were just talking about before, which is the transvestigations. Kamala Harris being, a man from Benghazi. Because, making her a man is one thing, but then you just got to pepper in some Benghazi in there because Benghazi just makes cookers fucking froth. That's dumb. And then you've got the Big Mike thing that just won't go away.
Do you know where that actually came from? Like, he wasn't referring when he says Obama was doing a speech and he says, "I'd like to say something to so and so, to Mike, to blah blah blah," and Michelle stood next to him, and everyone's gone, He's accidentally called he's
a real name.
The speech,
his real name.
This speech, he was giving an award to some high-ranking military officer in America, and the high-ranking military officer's son, who was there, was named Mike.
Oh,
and so he's speaking to his son. He's not accidentally dead named or misnamed or whatever. He's his secretly male husband.
That's what
wife.
You want us to think.
That's what. Yeah, exactly. Well, he's actually referring to a lad called Mike who was in the audience watching his dad get a medal.
What a fucking dumb.
The main person who proliferates that is Alex Jones.
Of course.
Two things about Alex Jones. One, he was caught. He's got a penchant for trans porn. Because of course he does the fucking like projecting repressed fat.
That was in like the Bankston thing. Yeah.
But the other thing was no, it was prior to that. He did it on InfoWars. He accidentally showed his phone. Well, he didn't. He showed his phone on InfoWars, and as he was flipping through the screens, he had two trans porn pages open.
Excellent.
Pink News did, which is a gay newspaper,
Yeah, I know Pink News,
LGBTQ
really good.
newspaper. They are very good. They did an investigation into it and discovered that these are on Pornhub. And in order to get to those videos on Pornhub, you had to go through at least 3 pages, putting in what your preferences were to get to that. So and he had 2 of these open. So he's obviously searching out trans porn and watching it on his phone. The other thing was his son Rex, when he decided to try his own InfoWars style thing, he did, as far as I'm aware, he did 1 show. His Cause de Celebra, which he's probably going to regret, seeing as he was like an 18-year-old lad. He came out and was fighting against the evils of pornography, saying that he had been addicted to pornography. It's like,
classic.
Mate, do you really want to go on the fucking internet and tell everybody that, like, you're a chronic masturbator?
You're a fucking
He's probably having said that, he's probably doing that to draw attention away from the fact that he's related to fucking Alex Jones.
Well,
that's what I do. I'm into bestiality. Aren't you Alex Jones's kid? No, I'm into bestiality.
I'd rather fuck dogs. Yeah. Absolutely. And Nick Fuentes also had that thing where he doing the America First podcast thing, his fucking weird Nazi groper shit, and the when this channel went offline or whatever, his screen was still shared. He was looking at gay porn. It wasn't trans porn, but it was gay porn. And then he said it was like the fucking Mossad doing it. You're like, bro.
Yeah.
I mean, blaming the Jews, come on, especially coming from you. I mean, you just like cock, let it go.
Nick Fuentes is so obviously like repressed and raging against a part of himself, and like he's
a fucking psychological nightmare.
Oh, absolutely! Like he knows exactly what he's doing. Like, but yeah, I very much think that he's in the closet. Ali Alexander was exposed as being very dodgy with kids,
him young,
and very much so, and pressuring people into doing stuff like that. There's lots of people that. It's a cliche, but like, you know, homophobia is born out of self-loathing a lot of the time, or sort of inability to process certain feelings, and that causes an anger within you that you project outwardly.
Yeah. Well, speaking of homophobia and being into kids, Andrew Tate is apparently a woman.
Yeah.
I love that. I love this. It could not have happened to a nicer bloke. And that was a very flat bather spot.
Yes, it was.
I mean, you know, it was probably just sort of all smooshed into, you know, a bit of a sort of homogenous bunch, but it was pretty flat.
You know, this isn't new to myself though. Like I'm there's a topic that I follow quite often, and I've been following it for a few years, and it's the nuttiest conspiracy ever.
Okay,
it's called elite gender inversion.
Oh, good.
If you go search for EGI or hashtag EGI or whatever,
you'll ruin your day.
It's been going on for a long time. It is like the worst thing ever. It's basically every famous person is the opposite gender to what they're portrayed as, basically.
I've always thought of being transvestigation, but yeah, there's a fucking term for it. Gross.
Yeah, no, elite gender inversion, and it's like a satanic thing. Like, obviously, it's all this stuff. Yeah, but so Andrew Tate's been a part of the investigations for a very, very long time. Same with Rittenhouse, because it is like this conspiracy theory is literally everybody who is famous is the opposite sex of what they pretend to be. Yeah,
that is the pinnacle of counter narratives.
They've got like Piers Morgan is actually a woman.
Oh my god!
Oh yeah, Piers Morgan's the woman from Home Alone 2, isn't he?
Ugliest woman. He's like they don't look anything like each other.
Mate, but that's the point. That's where it's become a lifestyle choice, where whether you realise it or not, you just live action role playing. Mm-hmm. Nothing's the way it is. Nothing is the way it seems. There's a stupid thing at the minute where people are genuinely connecting the Oasis reunion with the fact that Labour's back in government and how it's all a psyop to recreate those halcyon days of the 90s and fool people into thinking that basically it's not going to be it's a distraction from the totalitarian communist Marxist methods that Keir Starmer's going to bring in.
That is so dumb.
Isn't it just like...
Isn't that just great? Well, yeah.
But this is the point.
Talk about grasping at straws.
This is the thing. You're looking at everything because desperately trying to make the world more interesting, or conform to this science fiction thing that you've decided is real. So all men are women, all women are men. The Earth is really flat. Everything's a lie. If they tell you this, then it's wrong. And
because reality's
bizarre.
boring. Reality's boring.
Yeah.
Not only that, but if you want to look into reality further, this is one of the things that
It's
I found
hard.
at university. It's really hard, and you won't get a backpack for it. Like,
No.
I spent so many hours and so many years reading up on all these political theories and all this stuff and blah, blah, blah. And I was never the smartest person in the room. And that's just life, and it's fine, and I can accept that. But when it came to just ranting and raving and bitching and moaning about these confected conspiracy theories, half of which I was probably making up in my own fucking head just by being, well, obviously that's a conclusion. No, that's deductive reasoning is different to making shit up, bro. And then sort of feeling very much like the smartest person in the room because no one else knew this stuff and no one else got it, and I was the smartest person in the room.
But that's exactly the appeal of it, isn't it? It's like, you're getting other people who are basically telling you you're brilliant, and you're feeding into this thing where it's yes and stuff, isn't it? It's improv stuff.
Well, I never had that though. No one ever gave me I got a little bit of it when I was younger, but like in like sort of my early 20s when I was being sort of annoying at pubs, yelling and shit about fucking none of it being an inside job. Everyone just told me shut up. But I don't know if I would have come out of it if they didn't. If they were all like, wow, that's fascinating, tell me more. But they're all like, man, like, no one cares. Shut the fuck up. And you're like, oh, cool. All right, good. So I'm really glad that no one gave a fuck. But that is the thing. Now they're getting love bombed. They're getting told they're the smartest person in the room. And everyone is the smartest person in the room, which is very egalitarian and quite communist if you think about it.
Well, this is the thing.
But it works for them.
It's flattery, isn't it? Like, that's how you manipulate people, by flattering them and including you in your group. And a sort of like a sort of an example of this is somebody like an Alex Jones, who on one side has got these principles, these ideas, this blah blah blah, but you can flatter him into bullshit. The best example of that is someone like a Putin, like who basically he absolutely loves now, and sees as a sort of strong man fighting the West. And
did the same thing with Trump.
Well, yeah, but and again, they used
nice
to
things.
tell the truth about them. They used to say Trump is in bed with the mafia. He's totally corrupt. He's a liar. He's a shill. He doesn't pay people. He's a racist. His past record on things like housing and the Central Park Five proves this. With Putin, he was all on the sort of like Putin was one of the few people who's actually been caught genuinely trying to do a false flag. By bombing Chechen those flats and trying to blame it on the Chechen rebels. And Alex Jones was all over that because it was essentially like, you see, this kind of proves Oklahoma, because if Putin would do this, what's to say that the American government wouldn't do this?
And whataboutism.
Yeah. And he was well into Oklahoma because basically, like, the people involved with that, Terry Nichols and I forget the actual bomber's name. People know him. They were involved in militia groups and connected to John Birch Society and that ideology of Americana that Alex Jones sort of clings to.
It always ends up being
the wrong person. Then I was going to say Tim McGraw.
Timothy McVeigh.
Tim McGraw, isn't he like a
country star?
There is an argument.
Let's not get sued.
No,
there is an argument that country music is even worse. But
I agree. Now I'm just getting word from my handlers that George Soros is going to stop paying us now. So I think we should just call this off because I think we have hit time. We did set a time limit, which is basically designed to stop us from talking shit for 9 hours because we fucking would.
Yeah,
absolutely, unapologetically would.
I just want to say something to what you were just saying, though. To anyone else out here listening who is in this conspiracy world, is in it like how we were. Like, the world and reality is not actually boring.
Yeah.
It is fascinating.
Yeah.
And what I'm going to tell you right now is that your life is probably the thing that is boring. Get yourself a hobby,
capitalism.
Get a book about the universe, and it's going to blow your fucking mind.
Get Bill Bryson, start there and go from there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The history of everything. Like that I gotta say, that's one of those things that actually really helped me realized that the scientific world was not a monolith.
Yeah, it's a gateway drug to being curious, basically.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
Yeah,
and you know what? That's why we're doing the podcast, is because basically what we're finding is that the story behind the story is far more interesting. Like, I'm not sure if we've told anybody what our upcoming deep dive is going to be. Not the one that we've already recorded, the one that we're going to record in a few weeks' time. But there's the story, there's the conspiracy, which is fascinating, and blah 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 blah. But the story behind the story, it involves a man who hooked sperm up to a lie detector test, a psychic chinchilla, the Church of Scientology, the actor who plays Chucky,
nice.
And Tom DeLonge.
Of course.
What more can you ask?
Yeah, that's a cast of characters. That
isn't
feels
it?
Good. That is dumb Shakespearean. It's very good.
Well,
what we're trying to actually find out is who did 9/11. So that's weird. How does all that tie in with that?
How they are linked, you're going to have to find out. Join the Patreon so it comes earlier.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, we're going to call it. Like I say, we did put a ding-ding for an hour and a half, and we're 4 minutes over, undisciplined, just like Trump on a debate stage. And in the meantime, thanks heaps for coming on. You've filled a beautiful gap left by our very annoying, my very annoying co-host who has gone to England. So he just went to Lord's to watch some cricket. Probably England losing against Sri Lanka or something.
You know, when you said that, I thought you meant, oh, fuck, he's dying.
No,
I thought you meant
no.
I thought you meant Lords in France. Like,
oh no, not quite. But it's been a real pleasure hanging out. I always really like it. I really do hope that at some point we can have a beer in person. I do love England. I've been there like 10 times. I'd love to come back. But basically, Nine Inch Nails have a tour there exclusively, and then I'll go. Otherwise, I don't really have a strong enough reason. But hey, if they're like Nine Inch Nails somehow has come out and say, look, I'm doing a European tour, and that's the end of Nine Inch Nails, which they did in 2009. And then kept touring. Then I'll come back.
If you guys all join Patreon, then maybe the EU Disinfo Lab 2025, we can get Joel to come and join us there.
Nice.
That would be a cracking good time. I would love that. All right. Well, thanks, guys. Thank you, listeners. Thank you, Patreons, for from both the podcasts. Of course, if you're not one, sell your house and give it to us. Or just give us $5 a month. I don't mind. It's up to you. Either one. But in the meantime, thanks for listening. Thanks for being around. And thanks for all the death threats if you are listening, conspiratorial people. I doubt they are. See ya.
I don't think I ever want to talk to any of those people.
Fuck me! You guys are bastards!